My name is Senator Saliu Mustapha. I represent Kwara Central in the 10th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and I chair the Committee on Agriculture, Production and Services. Well, basically, inflation is due to certain economic challenges we're facing, which I know the economic team, headed by the Minister of Finance, who is the coordinating minister for the economy, are working around the clock to see that they do the needful, especially in the areas of our earnings. Our petrodollar has not been doing very well, which has affected some of our reliance on other sectors of the economy. But I can assure you, with a view of insight on what I know the team are working around the clock to do, I believe with some of the new policies being introduced, especially bringing CBN on board too now, to see that they stabilize the naira to the dollar, I'm sure before the third quarter or the end of the third quarter, we should be seeing some significant improvement. In terms of the food security challenges we're facing, basically our farmers have not had the best of time due to insecurity. They've not been able to go to farm, and when you have a community or a society that cannot go to farm, then how do you expect them to feed? It has also brought some level of scarcity and also inflation in the agricultural sector. That is why the president, I know, has also taken the bull by the horn, telling the security agencies to up their game in terms of providing security so that farmers can go to farm. The banditry issue must be put to an end. That is where you can secure lives and people can also confidently say their farm produce or harvest can be secured. And in the areas of the farmers, herders issue, you can see the president has just introduced the Ministry of Livestock. He is chairing with the former INEC chairman, Professor Atairu Jega. They are looking at the framework so as to create an everlasting and once and for all solution to the issue of herders and farmers, so that nobody crosses each other's space. If we're able to do this, and in fact there's a lot of potentials in livestock that Nigeria is yet to tap, because I still see people importing beef to Nigeria. These are things we can easily overcome and even take advantage of our potentials and become a major exporter of animal produce. So I think some of these policies are coming at the right time. It's not enough to just tell the people to be patient. We must work around the clock, but at the same time, we must also give government a chance to. It's just 1 year and some months in office. Let's see how we can work around the clock and see that we bring some of these things to real time to the people. So I think in these areas, government is doing its best, and we must also recognize and accept the effect of climate change in whatever we are doing. Climate change is a major contributor to the progress of any given society now. There are areas where you don't plan for drought, you don't plan for cooler beds, these are things that come, these are natural occurrences. So we must also, the best we can do in that area is to give early warnings so that farmers can, with technology now, you can know what to plan, how to plan your farming season. Well, in that area, the government has just recently rolled out certain, so to say, palliatives that will cushion the effects of the farmers down to the local levels. I can assure you that in the last 2-3 weeks, farmers have been receiving fertilizer free of charge. And these are some of the things that will increase the yield. I was on a trip with the Minister of Agriculture about a month and a half ago. The presidency have also, in looking at mechanized farming, placed a direct purchase order for tractors. And I think if this government can provide 20,000 tractors in 5 years, I think it's a major boost to agriculture.
20,000?
20,000.
20,000?
Yes.
Is that enough?
It's not enough, but if over, or in the past 20-30 years, not 1,000 tractors was imported to this country by government, and this present administration has been able to say in the first 5 years, let's have 4,000 tractors from 2 different sources, the Belarus and the John Deere, 2,000 each, and they are supposed to set up assembly plant in the second year of this program, such that tractors will be assembled here. That will create another opportunity of employment, and spare parts will be fabricated here. And from there, we can now go into some form of manufacturing of certain prototype. So I think that it's a boost to the agricultural sector, which will, because all we say every time is that we need to go for massive production. And you cannot go in for massive production with the peasant way or style of farming now. You have to go mechanized. So I think we must give credit to that effect, or to that policy that government has just launched now. And they've also been bringing in improved seedlings. We've never had soil labs in the country. This government has started building soil labs in the 6 geopolitical zones before we will even take it down to each of the states. Because you see, the mistake we've been doing, for me, agriculture is now technologically driven. In the past, people plant or apply certain types of fertilizer just on a broad scale. Every soil or every part of this country has its own soil nutrients. So we should be able to know what grows here, what will do better here, so that we can become major exporters of some of these stuffs, so as to be able to earn money. You see, the non-oil sector can contribute more than the oil sector in terms of our GDP or foreign earnings. But we've neglected that non-oil sector.
Why?
Well, let me not put the blame solely on the past administrations. Also, we as citizens, we need to educate ourselves better, and we need to take farming from the ancient style of looking at it as work for maybe the villagers. We should make it more attractive and let people know that there is more to gain in it than it's a way. I mean, for me, agriculture is it's a way of lifestyle, or it's a lifestyle on its own, or it's a way of living. So people should know that going into agriculture is not just meant for those who are dropouts, or no. They should know it's a business on its own, which can generate and can transform Well, for me, I would support high tariffs on certain goods that can be produced here, so as to discourage importation of certain things we can grow here. When we do that, we will further encourage our local farmers. I tell people there's no policy of government, there is no program you put out there if we don't have proper information dissemination, and also we have to have a proper orientation. That is when we don't also shortchange ourselves.
Yes, blatant profiteering.
Well, some will tell you it's business, but for me, we need to be able to put things in the right context. In the past, we had in the military days of Buhari, then when he came in as a military government, there's this price stability Marshall system they were using there. They force you to peg things at certain prices so that you don't, take advantage of.
Like a recommended retail price.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for me, I think we will get there, but we also need to enlighten ourselves more so that people don't take advantage of gaps. I'm aware the Ministry of Agric is working with WFO, World Food Organization, and also there's another organization again I know they are working with, so as to make sure, one, the right and the quality nutrition is being served, especially to the school, the school bracket, or those within the school bracket, because the younger ones must have proper nutrition so as to be able to grow. And if you have a generation that
stunted growth,
then it's as good as you have a failed nation. Then there's some other aspect that we don't look at: preservation. I know the ministry has embarked on making sure farmers or farm produce are properly preserved so as to be able to meet up the market demands. It is also a problem and a challenge when people harvest, for instance, watermelon, tomato, and they are not able to preserve it for a week to take it to the next value chain. Then you see sudden inflation in prices. I'm aware there is a program between Federal Ministry of Agric, Rural Development, and even the World Bank, which is called RAMP, Rural Access Road to Market, so that produce can easily get to the urban areas, because sometimes we suffer a lot of harvest loss. And when you suffer that, then the little that can get to the market will be sold at a premium.
Sounds like an infrastructure, last mile logistics.
So I'm aware of all these programs and efforts by this administration to make sure the farm produce get to the urban area, the access road is provided, facilities for preserving some of these stuffs are provided, and then the storage facilities. We had silos that were not put into use for some time. Our food reserve has not been 50%. It has not been in 50% capacity for the past how many years? Is this administration that came in now that is making sure that, look, for whatever it is, you must plan to have a strategic food reserve for days like this, which sometimes it might be climate problem that will make you lose a lot of harvest. You need to fall back immediately, or else you have inflation in the little you can afford. for me, my advice will be no nation can go through certain destructive protests within a short period of 4 to 5 years in 2-3 times. If you do that, you only destroy the nation. We've seen other climes, or we've seen other countries, we've seen what they are going through. I hope and I pray we're able to manage the tides here, and I know that is why the president is working around the clock to make sure that the minimum wage is realistic. I know in the next couple of days he will be sending a minimum wage that will be acceptable across board. The most important thing is for also the workforce, the labor force, to look at some of the things they believe the government can put in place to be able to cushion the effect of their day-to-day living. Of course, the government has come up with the CNG. You can see a lot of massive road infrastructure. These are measures, the train, these are measures to see that they bring some level of, I don't want to say palliative, but incentives that will be able to reduce the cost of living. By the time we're able to achieve this, then all we'll be thinking of is how do we now go to the secondary level of making sure certain things are affordable, like power. They must be affordable and steady electricity power if you also want the manufacturing sector to progress, because no manufacturing sector can progress living on diesel or alternative source of maybe inverters. This will not give you the needed productivity you desire for. So I know there's some arrangement with Siemens, and they are also trying to up their production or energy requirement in certain areas so as to make sure those who are in the manufacturing sector have enough to be able to meet up their demand. So I think if we give the government an opportunity, for those who are calling for a massive protest, I will only appeal to them that we must be patient. That is not an excuse that the government should fold its arms, but we must be patient to see that some of these policies take shape and they become effective. At the same time, those of us who, in one way or the other, have responsibilities on our shoulders, we must wake up to our responsibilities, because we have no any other country to live in than Nigeria. And if we don't give the people what they demand, what we've been voted for to do, then we are at risk of losing a great nation.